Hey everyone, I'm going to show you my annual review template. You can use this both for personal and for business. I find it extremely helpful when I'm able to reflect back on the year, and then when you look back in time, you can see how much you've improved. And if you stay till the end, I'm going to walk through the key lessons that I learned, and these lessons will probably apply to you as well. If we look at the template that I have over here, there's a couple things that we cover. So there's a high level overview in terms of how I felt about the year. And then there's people that I'm thinking, there's core non-negotiables, and these change over time as well. Highlights from a personal standpoint, a business standpoint, top learnings, areas to improve, myself, goals, predictions, books, favorite content I made, favorite interview that I did, and then favorite content that I consumed, and a conclusion. And if you stay till the end as well, I'll walk through the analytics around this as well in terms of how many words this is. I'll also walk through how you can apply this from a business standpoint too, if you do have a business. So first and foremost, I just mentioned, hey, this is really therapeutic to write it. And honestly, it took me a while to do it this week. And this is during Thanksgiving week of 2024. And I also call out some predictions too towards the end. And you'll see my predictions over the years, how wrong I've been, and then how I've gotten better over the years about them. And I also link to my past reflections, I should say. People-wise, I mean, you can see, I think, a bunch of people here. My mom, my dad, my dad for supporting my mom during tough times. My mom continuing to be a fighter. Thomas, my childhood friend, who's kind of been been stable, going from 6 years old all the way up to 38 years old now. And Neil, my podcast co-host, he's always been consistent, and we had a lot of fun times this year, which we'll get to in a little bit. And then my friend Steve, who I met through another entrepreneur group, he actually introduced me to my CTO, Sean. And look, if you want to build cool things in the world, you're going to have to do it with great people. And everything's about networking at the end of the day, right? My ad agency single grained the team, and then I called out a couple of great performers. And then we have a Tuluminati group. So there's another group, right? So even if you just look at the very beginning over here, if you want any trends from like, how do you succeed in life? It just comes down to people, right? There's a lot of different groups that I'm in. There's different things that I get from people, and there's different roles that I play too. So at the very top, there's a role that I play as a son. There's also a role I play as a friend to another childhood friend. Everything comes down to how strong your relationships are and how you continue to become more useful so you can build more relationships in your life, and then you'll just get everything that you want. And then when I moved to core non-negotiables, these help put boundaries around my life. These are the important things for me. If nobody can respect this and they want to come into my life, this is not going to work, right? And so, for example, for me, I'm a sleep nerd. I have my sleep stack, right? There's magnesium glycinate that I take. There's glycine that I take, L-theanine, apigenin. And I'm not recommending that you take these. I'm not a doctor, but I've done a lot of studying over the years. I don't know if I have sleep tape in here, but I've been using sleep tape since about 8 years or so. So before it was cool. And I've had my 8 sleep for maybe 5 years or so. And 8 sleep's been fantastic for me. It cools my bed. It's sleep analytics and everything. Non-negotiables will be lifting 4 times a week with zone 2 cardio afterwards. And then if I don't do that, Peloton 3 times a week, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, trying to do it more, 2025. I talk about, my core supplement stack, right? And then my what's in my breakfast, what's in the smoothie. And it's just jammed with a bunch of stuff. Then I talk about other things too. So you can see, I try to take care of my health in general. You can see, okay, omega-3s, curcumin, vitamin D, multivitamin, those are all things that you can get on your own. Lutein, quercetin, those are all fine, right? Quercetin I like taking every day because it does help with my immune system. And I haven't gotten sick in a while, so knock on wood there. And clomiphene. So every quarter or so, I'll have my blood drawn. Well, I'll look at my biomarkers. And about a year ago or so, my testosterone wasn't as high as it could be. It was decent, but it wasn't as high as it could be. And I started taking clomiphene, and that actually bumped my testosterone to 1,600 and 1,000 is actually really good. But so it overshot a little bit, right? Rapamycin to help with anti-aging, but I've seen some data around this where it's not that helpful. So I might consider stopping it. And then tirzepatide, which is something that was given to me by my concierge doctor. And this is for blood sugar and regulation, but a lot of people use it for, it has an Ozempic-like effect as well. So, people can use it for weight loss. I didn't really have weight issues, but it's also good for regulating food intake, right? This year, a big game changer for me, I would say, is the sauna cold plunge. Doing the sauna 3-4 times a week for about 20 minutes in the sauna, and then going 4 minutes of cold plunge. That's amazing, right? So usually I'll do 15 to 25 minutes of sauna, and then I'll end about cold plunge about 4 minutes or so. And you're like, oh, what's the benefit of that? Well, the benefit of that is from the cold plunge alone, I get a big dopamine release, a big endorphin high as well. And that lasts for hours, and it helps with inflammation. Usually if I sit for too long, my back starts to hurt, and I'm sure it's like that for most people. And then the sauna is also good for just longevity, right? Because if you do it for, if you do it consistently, you're going to decrease your all-cause mortality. We're talking 40-50% or so. You're going to increase your heart health. You're going to help detoxify your body. And I just feel a lot better when I do these things. So that's what it looks like for the first two sections over here. And I'm going to try to speed it up a little bit so we don't have to walk through the whole thing. But I'm telling you, if you stay till the very end, there's going to be benefit for you in terms of the core lessons I learned. And I'm actually going to give you one of them right now. So one of the core lessons I learned looking back at the last couple of years, I would say, is one key word. The recurring word is focus, right? That's one of the recurring words. And in 2021, you can see I was just working on way too many things. Even in 2022, too many things, but it started to pare down over the years. And one of my key focuses for each year, starting from 2022, the theme is focus, right? And I focused better in 2022, focused better in 2023, 2024, a lot more focused. And I'm looking forward to continuing to do it, right? And I used to not like that word, or that word didn't really jibe with me. And I just learned that for me, as much as I want to try to do a bunch of other things, focus is a muscle that needs to be worked out every single day. And if you want to be the best version of yourself that you can be, in general, focus is going to be the key to get you there. And so that's what it is. Now, let's get to things, because people like things, and I'll call out some of the highlights over here. So yes, everybody can talk about ChatGPT. Let me just tell you this. I'll give you a different way to think about ChatGPT. ChatGPT has been the MVP for me in terms of being my thought partner. For example, I'm looking at doing an M&A deal right now. And let me know in the comments if you want me to kind of walk through this process too. I'm looking at, okay, what's the internal rate of return if I do an M&A deal versus maybe invest it into something else like stocks or something like that, right? What's a better return on investment? And okay, what are the pros and cons behind it? And so I use the O1 preview model, which is the model where it thinks, and it thinks before just blurting out an answer to you. That has been tremendous. I use ChatGPT as my therapist as well, and because it's infinitely patient with me. I use ChatGPT I remember I was in Japan this year, and I used ChatGPT to have a real-time translation with someone at the Rimowa store with my friends. The line just took forever. And so I just flipped out my phone and I said, hey, ChatGPT, I need you to help me translate a real-time conversation here between an English person and a Japanese person. And I want you to just go back and forth. When you hear English, translate to Japanese. When you hear Japanese, translate it to English. And then I had it move into the audio version. And it just started going back and forth. And we had a full-on conversation that way. And it was great. Have you ever wanted to target a bunch of accounts on LinkedIn at once and personalize them? Well, previously you couldn't do this. Let's say you wanted to target 500 enterprise companies and you wanted to hyper personalize those ads. You can do that now. And LinkedIn has confirmed with us that nobody else can do this right now. Only we can do it. The product is called Carrot. That's Karrot. And it's Carrot account-based marketing. So if you go to carrot.ai, you can go learn more about it, and we'll see you on the other side. What else for things? The company I use for the concierge doctor, for the biometrics, and then the supplements, all that type of stuff, is called Everspan Life. There's my DJI Osmo 3. That's for vlogging. And I just got this. And to me, it's the best camera out there for vlogging. So you're one of the first to see this video. You're gonna learn that, or you're learning right now that I'm going to be vlogging my life and talking more about the ups, the downs, and you'll see kind of more real time, because this is a very small camera that I can carry around with me. The gimbal will follow me too. I can do time lapses and things like that. I can shoot B-roll, and it's gonna be fun. A big thing that has impacted me this year is my body tutor. So you might pay monthly for this, and it keeps me on top of my fitness and my diet. And basically you tell your body tutor, who's a real person on the other side, what you want to accomplish. And for me, I'm like, hey, it'd be nice to have a six-pack just for the hell of it. And so, earlier this year I weighed about 151. It's a decent weight. And then now I'm about 140 or so. And then I'm might drop a little more. But the key thing is for the last 2-3 months or so, I've really locked in on what I eat. I calorie count a lot more. So I'm a lot more intentional. And then I use ChatGPT again, to break out all my workouts into bullet point form. So I don't have to write it all out, right? Otherwise it'd be a huge pain in the butt. And that's been super helpful. And I have air quality monitor. It's right here. It's from a company called Jinping, I think is how you pronounce it in Chinese. That's the brand. And then I also have these physical hourglasses over here. I have a bigger one. Over here. So this one's for 30 minutes. And then this one's for 5 minutes if I'm about to, just write something out. That's basically on the personal side. I would say a big game changer has been Bolt.new and V0 and tools like Replit, right? Replit. for quickly front-ending new ideas. And what I mean by that is if I want to throw up a landing page, I can quickly work with one of these tools and it'll help me code it up, and I'll even design it as well. And I can just send it over to my team. And actually, I was messing with 3 of them yesterday, and it actually built out some amazing landing pages. I'll give View Stats a honorary mention because it does help me with YouTube, and that's Mr. Beast analytics tool. So that's great. And now we're moving into highlights over here. So if you look at this, watch. 2022, I was gone for 137 days in a year. So basically a third of the year I was gone. And 2023, I was like, okay, let's try to decrease that a little bit. I brought it down to 107 days. And in 2024, I decreased it even more to 87 days. And so you can see all time I've traveled about 1.1 million miles, probably a little more than that because I haven't recorded everything. But you can see here that for 2024, I traveled 128,000 miles and I was gone for 87 days, 19 trips total. And then for 2023, I was gone 149,000 miles. That's what I traveled. And I was gone 107 days and 25 total trips. And so I've decreased it by around 20% every year. Just getting different food, different perspectives, and different experiences. And so as we go down here, this year, I would say the highlights for me were Italy, Japan, Germany, Thailand. I would say those top 4. So really Europe and Asia. And then, these other American cities are just me mostly speaking at events. The one thing I would say that's probably practical for anybody here is that as you continue to level up in your life, try to take 4 mini vacations per year. And it can be, you can start off with staycations first, just go to a local area and maybe you don't have to spend a lot of money. And then as you continue to gain more experience in your career, you have some more resources, then maybe you can go travel around the world. But I found that every quarter or so, just resetting, or even in the middle of the quarter, traveling and doing stuff and coming back and then resetting, you're going to come back fresh and you're going to come back with new ideas. And that break is also good for, if you have a company, for example, it's also good for the people that are at your company to potentially step up and maybe they'll come up with other ideas too. And when you come back, they'll present you with those ideas, right? Now we're getting over into pictures. And so I've talked about the thing with my body tutor. I do feel like I'm the healthiest that I've ever been. And that's been good, right? Because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything else. If you don't have your health, that's the number one thing that you're thinking of. And to have that, you're able to bring your best self to the world, and you're able to produce, right? You want to produce for your friends, your family, you want to produce for your customers, you want to produce for your employees, you want to produce for all stakeholders that are around you, all the people that matter to you, right? So I'm going to talk about a couple stories here. So this is Thailand over here, and I was fortunate enough to go speak at a mastermind, and then that led to my Japan trip. This is where Neil and I spoke at HubSpot's Inbound, and that's a conference that has about 20,000 people or so. So you can see for this one over here, it's about 150 people, and then we kept people very engaged. We had people, talk about their biggest marketing idea, and then we had the champions from each table come up and present, and then we had an ultimate champion. So that was like a fun contest. And then this one over here, so you can see a bunch of people sitting. This is about 700 people. This room was not sold out, but it was completely booked out. And this is Neil and I just nerding out on marketing again. And usually when I go to these events, I always try to throw a dinner. So I got my friend Kat Cole, CEO of AG1, Chris Savage from Wistia. It's a video hosting platform. And then Grain, these 2 co-founders of Grain over here. And then YPO friend Taehoon over here. And then my podcast co-host Neil. And this is my YPO forum, right? So often if you watch my videos at all, you hear that I talk about different groups like EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, or YPO, Young Presidents Organization. And these are groups these are guilds or clans or groups that will help you level up. These are communities of entrepreneurs and business people. And you can see it's also a very diverse group, and people have different types of businesses, right? So, for example, Michelle Ranavan over here has a beauty brand called Ranavan, and they do well in Sephora. Harrison has a lighting company over here. Helen has a bunch of different companies she has a hospice company, she has pharmacies and things like that. And then I would just say, look, it's a very diverse group. And then over here, this is my, taking pictures throughout the year, right? So walks, and then this is me speaking again. I'm not going to go through everything here, but had a fun chat with Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then traveled to Rome. Italy was probably my highlight of the year. I was gone for about 12 days or so, and just being in Rome, Positano over here, eating the gelato, eating this boar ragu over here. And then this is in Sorrento, and then traveling with my mom to Vegas, and then seeing my buddy Yaniv. He just kind of dropped by. And then this is my old EO forum over here. I talked about different groups. This is my parents and I in La Jolla. I'm just going to keep going. Oh, yeah. This is big too. Like, you want to keep in touch with people because you never know where people might go. And so these are two ex-grainers. These are two people that used to work at Single Grain, UA. I'm really proud of how far they've come. And so to keep in touch with people, I think people, I realized, maybe my early 20s or so, I'm like, oh yeah, it's all about money, career. But you get older and you realize that everything's about people, right? Because you stayed till this portion, I'm going to give you the second part, right? The earlier thing I learned from looking at all my reflections over the past few years is the fact that focus was one of the primary things, right? But not only that, you have to be patient. And when I say patient, that means patient not for 3 years. That's not patience. Not for 5 years. Not even for 10 years. I'm talking about 20, 30, really 30 plus years of patience. I'm talking about building a generational business, right? And a lot of people just give up too early. They sell, which is fine. Maybe it's a life-changing amount for them. But for me, I just look at the people around me that have really succeeded. And when I look at people that do too many things at once, usually what happens is they don't really have a big business. And maybe that's fine. But for me, if I want to play the game, I want to play the game at a high level. That's why after I got slapped in the face a couple of times, I would say the second word, there's actually 3 words. There's second word, first word is focus. Second word is patience. As we go on here, this is me just in Japan. So this guy's name's David Hensel, and then this is me over here. David remembers me from a game called EverQuest that I used to play when I was about 12 years old or so. So he was 21 at the time. David's an entrepreneur now, very successful in his own right. But by the way, the word count for this is 5,300 words. And I started writing this about 6 days ago or so, and I've been continually adding to it. And so I would encourage you, when you're going to do an annual review, that you start doing it before the year ends. And so give yourself about a week to do it, maybe 2 weeks to do it or so. Because if you don't reflect, like, the years stack up very quickly and the years go by very quickly. And I can tell you, just yesterday, I was 25 years old. I felt like that was just yesterday. And now I'm in my late 30s. So I'm going to continue on here. And just these are some of my business highlights, right? So 2024 is a year where we've grown the fastest. Team's the strongest it's ever been, right? We created new software that's getting a lot of interest right now. And then the key phrase for me is focused involvement. Just learning that, as a founder of the company, you can drive the most impact, and you shouldn't just delegate it all to someone else and let them decide. Delegation is important, but you don't want to abdicate. We're on the M&A hunt again, and which is buying other companies. I am championing the YPO Global Marketing Summit, so I'm handling a conference in April 2025. There's also a group that Neil and I started called the Agency Owners Association. We average about 6 million views per month across socials, which is pretty good. And then those of you that are marketing nerds, what's old is new again. We're talking webinars, events work really well for us. Private dinners, events, right? Everything's about community. Webinars in general, that's also kind of community as well. And then SEO, paid media, direct mail, affiliate marketing, M&A partnerships. But it's old in marketing, but it still works today. And those are the things that are worth paying attention to. And so these are more business pictures. This is a YPO retreat, right? But see, the more you meet up with these people, the more relationships you build, and people like to do business with people. And you don't need to worry about trying to win other business or get other business. If you're just naturally a kind person and you're a person of value, everything is going to come back to you. This is part of our Illuminati group. Syed and I were walking around in Miami, and then Eric, who lives in Puerto Rico, he happened to we just saw him at a random restaurant in Miami. So we just gathered together, took a picture real quick. Hanging out with Gary Vee, this is cool. I've always respected what he's done, and we did a podcast. His PR team reached out, had him on Marketing School and Leveling Up. Pat Flynn, YouTuber, Kevin Espiritu, he has the largest gardening YouTube channel with a couple million subs. Pat Flynn has a large Pokemon channel on another channel. Playing poker, that's more community with other entrepreneurs too, right? And other high performers. Here's a straight flush on the board. Never seen that in my life, and I've played a lot of hands of poker, I'll tell you, growing up. And this hand was funny because basically there are 4 people at the very end, and then one guy. If I were first in position, I would have gone all in. Those of you that are into poker, and the second person called, and then I was like the 4th person, so the person 3 and 4 folded because there's no upside to calling that. We're not going to win much, right? So and if someone has a 6 over here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 diamonds, then we'd be screwed. If you're an agency owner and you want to grow faster, check out the Agency Owners Association that's hosted by my podcast co-host, Neil Patel, and myself. And we have other agency owners that are doing 8 figures a year. They were doing 9 figures a year. They sold their business for hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're going to share their experiences with you. There's a whole host of other benefits. And the cool thing is that there's a 7-day free trial, and you should check it out now because we're going to take the prices up. So just go to marketingschool.io/agency to learn more, and we'll see you inside. This is a nice highlight for the year too. Top 10 business shows on Apple for podcasts. You can see Marketing Schools over here. Right next to Diary of a CEO, you can see Anthony Frisella's podcast as well. And then you have Hala Taha from Young and Profiting. And then this is the Illuminati that I told you about. So once a year we get together. We've been to Turkey in the past. We've been to Bodrum, Turkey. We have been to Cabo. We've been to Tulum, which is why I call it Illuminati. Here we're just in Scottsdale. We had a dinner over here. Great group of guys. Patrick Campbell sold his company, Profit Well, Syed Balki, Yaniv Masjedi, one of my close friends. This is Nathan Berry from a company called Kit. And you can see there's a theme again. If you want to get ahead, you're going to have to go with other people. If you want to go far, you're going to go together, right? You're not going to go alone. And that applies to business, but that also applies to you as well, because just understanding that if you're going to do something that's remarkable, there's less and less remarkable people as you continue to rise and climb that mountain, right? So you're going to need to hang out with like-minded people. And that's generally the theme of what I've seen throughout my life. And, that got reinforced in my 20s or so. And this is us playing basketball and us being dorks. And this is Sophia hosting poker. This is Neil and I recording Marketing School. We started doing a lot more in person. This is Seth Godin. This one's a big one. One of the first personal growth books that I read was Linchpin. And that taught me not to be a cog in a wheel. And it was Seth that wrote this, Seth Godin. That was 16 years ago. Okay. And so this is us, his PR team reached out. We did a podcast over here. And, it came full circle. And this podcast episode actually did pretty well. And this is Neil and I speaking at This Is Marketing, about 5,000 attendees. And then me walking around like I'm cool. And then me speaking at HubSpot in front of about 500 people or so. So now, look, you've stayed to this point. You see how cool it is as I get to reflect through this? As I'm telling you these stories, I'm like, man, actually a lot of cool stuff happened. Like this journey was really fun this year. And the benefit of writing this down is when you get to recall these stories, and those stories, those are movies that replay in your head. And when you recall them, when it's like someone telling you a story, it's like, oh man, that felt pretty cool. And you experienced that first person. That's pretty cool, right? So top learning is what I mentioned to you earlier. I'm quadrupling down. This is going to be 2025. It's the same thing. 2022, 2023, 2024. Focus requires commitment. That goes for both business and personal, right? So if you don't get rid of the escape hatches, you don't throw away all your escape routes, then it's going to be hard to commit. I mentioned earlier, focus is not a one-off. It's like a muscle that continues to need to be, it has to be worked out consistently. Otherwise, it's going to atrophy. If you stop working out, your results will suffer, right? My job as a founder is to inject risk and turn up the heat in a company. And I learned that from watching a good interview with the Shopify founder, Toby. And he just mentioned, your job is to bring energy. Your job is to inject risk into the company and also turn the heat up, right? So other people can kind of absorb that heat, turn the energy up. Your job as the founder is to do that, right? And I found when it comes to relationships, whether it's romantic or personal, you generally want to be around people that are peaceful, polite, and pleasant. Those are the 3 Ps. And, patience also is a big thing as well, right? And so I learned that the hard way this year. The other big one is if you don't apply pressure, you're going to feel it. So let's say you're running a company. If you're being too nice to other people, you're not applying pressure. And therefore, what's going to happen is things don't get done. And all of a sudden, you're going to feel all the pressure. It's all going to come caving down on you because you aren't doing what it takes to lead. And so you have to apply pressure or you're going to feel it. And I've talked about this. It's interesting because I wrote this in 2023, but I wrote that it's very hard to beat founder DNA. And I saw this reinforced because this year founder mode became something really popular because of an essay that Paul Graham wrote. And I just wrote about how people talked about how cool it was to hire CEOs and work on other projects and do other things. But the reality is the founder has the vision. The founder has that hammer to make things happen. And the founders can drive the business a whole hell of a lot faster than anybody else can. And if you're not going to try to do that, then you might as well sell the business. Otherwise, why are you doing that? And I'll share this template too, by the way. But I'll give you the third word now. So we talked about focus, right? We talk about patience. Now, the third thing I would say is, because we talk about founder mode, you got to stay involved, which is why I used focus involvement earlier. That's the word that sticks in my head. You got to be involved. Again, I'm not saying don't delegate. I'm not saying don't hire an executive team. I'm not saying don't hire strong leaders. Absolutely do. But if you're constantly around there, turning up the heat here and there, turning up the heat here and there, what's going to happen? The company's going to grow because you are the one that has the most context around the company. So I have a section for areas to improve as well. And I'm just kind of saying, like, I will do this, right? I'm kind but firm in business. I need to bring this to my personal life more, right? I will go on more walks. I will spend more time on recruiting. I will spend more time on improving our core offering at Single Grain. I'm bringing meditation back, right? I kind of brought some of the business ones into the personal. And then this part's really cool. So for me, I just said one small way I can become a better person in 2025. So for others, storytell through the vlog, which I talked about earlier with my DJI Osmo. So that's a commitment I'm going to make, right? For myself, set clear boundaries and stick to them. I also had this in 2024, but also being more patient too. What can I thank myself for? Daily workouts, that compounds every single day. Eating healthy, that compounds every day. Sleeping relatively well, that compounds every day. Continuing to stay focused in the business, that's good. Being capable of loving, but from a distance. Learning that from my relationships this year. Narrowing the focus, that's also big too, because we can always try. There's always opportunities. There's also the opportunity of a lifetime that comes every year, right? But you got to stay focused. And overall for me, just leveling up. And I actually have these little leveling up. You see leveling up? These little mic boxes, I guess you call them. But yeah, leveling up 1% better every single day. Because if you don't, nobody else is going to come take care of you. That's all it is. What have I outgrown this year? So impatient with results. So as each year goes by, to gain a deeper understanding of what it takes to build a generational business, focus, excellent project selection, and a long time horizon. All right. So now we're on to goals. Okay. And then this is where you can see how I did this year, and I also put in last year's as well. And then you can obviously see the reviews for the previous years. So 2025, get to 20 million views per month on socials. I want to get a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt, which means I probably go 2 to 4 times a week. Acquire another company, hit another record year for Single Grain. Hire a strong client services leader, achieve product market fit for Carrot ABM, which is our software, launch marketing agents platform. We're hard charging into AI, and then get YouTube monthly long form views, which I didn't call out in 2024, but we want to get the long form views to 500K per month. And then 2024, we average about 172K per month, and then 4 mini vacations again. And you can see for 2024, in terms of results, I had 9 goals. We hit 4 out of 9. And in general, when you're setting your goals, you don't want to set it where you can hit 9 out of 9, because that means your goals are too easy. You want to make them hard. So last year, I wanted to get socials to 1 million aggregate views, and we did 5.8 million per month, which is great. And grow YouTube to 500K views per month. We average 1.87 million per month, 172K per month for a long form, but I didn't call that out last year. So that's that. And then hired the best leaders to help with recruiting, client services, sales, tech. We basically hit it across the board. I'd say they're the best people for where we're at right now. And then we'll see if, everyone can scale to the next level, right? Because for example, just because I helped get the company to where it's at right now, doesn't mean I'm the one to, be the one when it's like doing, 10 billion in revenue or something like that, right? Hopefully I can scale, but we'll see. 4 mini vacations, I did that as well. Germany, Italy, Thailand, Japan. And then I kind of failed on these other ones over here. And I triple lead fly. I also talked about why we missed it, right? So we went up 83%, but not quite triple. Predictions. So this part's fun. You want to see how good you are at predictions, right? At predicting the future. Maybe if you're really good at predicting the future, maybe you should invest more, right? That's not financial advice. Let's actually start with the previous year. So 2022, I only hit 1 out of 5 predictions. Okay, so that was terrible. 2023, I hit 3.5 out of 7, so 50%, not too bad. So I improved, from, I guess, 20% to 50%. So pretty significant. And then 2024, out of 10 predictions, I hit 8.5 out of 10, right? So I think the big calls that I made were a Republican president winning and the crypto bull market arriving again. So, we're recording this towards the end of 2024. The crypto bull market is here again, and then a Republican president did win. Creator operators, I do believe that's continuing to rise. And then I had a lot of AI predictions, and most of them were correct, which is why I had so many. But the big ones I called correctly. And for 2025, my predictions are, let's just say the big ones. I think the economy will grow in 2025. I think inflation will tick up. I think crypto will have a record year in 2025. I think M&A activity is going to pick up. Same with IPO activity. I think in-person communities will increasingly become more valuable. Maybe that's not much of a prediction, but that is what it is. The DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, will make significant moves that will turn out being net positive. Same for RFK's Make America Healthy Again initiative. I think when you have 43% of people that are obese in America, something needs to be done. And I think software will continue to get commoditized, which makes the attention the X factor. And I do think return to office will continue to rise. That's actually a spicy take too. So again, I triggered around 300K people now at this point. Not that we're doing it. I'm just saying that it is what it is, right? Maybe that's for another video. So by the way, like you can see 5,300 words. I stacked this for quite a bit, but to be able to reflect on this every year. And if my kids can read this in the future and their grandkids can read this in the future, maybe they can combine all these documents and make it into a book. They can use AI to make it into a book. They can make it into a movie, right? And that's pretty cool. Imagine everyone takes all the reflections and makes them into their own movies and shares them with their families. How much would that be worth at the end of the day? That's pretty cool. All right, favorite books of 2024. Let's just call it the outliers here. So I paid $100 for one book called Les Schwab, Pride and Performance. This guy founded the largest tire company in America, and in the 80s or so, they're doing hundreds of millions in revenue, which is probably billions at this point. And he just talks about, he's just kind of like an all shucks guy, right? Like a cowboy talking about how they do profit sharing. That's probably my biggest takeaway I got from that book. How he treats his employees, how he treats people in general, how he continued to expand, his ups and downs in business. It's not a smooth line. So $100 for that book. No longer in print. I paid $73 for a book written by Charlie Munger. And it was $73, and it talks about 3 of his core essays that he wrote or his speeches that he did. And it's worth it because at the end of the day, you're basically paying for the advice from billionaires. And these are people that worked their way up. Nothing was ever really handed to them, and they built themselves up. And I would say an honorable mention here would be 38 letters from John D. Rockefeller to his son. So he was also the richest guy at the time. And he wrote these letters to his son, basically passing down his wisdom, right? I also really liked How to Be Rich, which is written by J. Paul Getty, who was the richest man in the world at the time when he wrote that book. And he's close to dying when he released it. And I think more practical books would be Reality Transurfing. If you can, the book is 800 pages. It's very dense. I would recommend the audiobook. But if you can get through it, you can stay patient, maybe listen to it at 1x or 1.2x, it will change your life. If you're looking for something that helps you rethink how you think about life and how to get everything that you want, I recommend reading that book. And then the first non-business fiction book that I read in many years now is it's called Replay. And the whole idea is this guy that just, he's like 43 years old. He dies, he comes back to life at 18, gets to relive his life, but he keeps dying at 43. So he keeps, coming up with different ways to live his life. And it'll get you to think a little bit about how you might want to live your life. So that's what I would say. And then I also list the books from 2023, 2022, 2021, my favorite books. Favorite content that I made, favorite interview that I did, favorite content that I consume. I think this is relevant to everyone. I really like this Mr. Beast production handbook. I like, this note over here talking about, 31% internal rate of return isn't worth it if your 2 daughters hate you. That's good food for thought as I continue to get older. Brian Chesky talking about founder mode and the art of hiring. I thought that was great. And then this is a Toby Lutke pod on increasing the temperature and, driving the pace, right? So, what I would say over here, I did write a spicier conclusion than I have in the past, but just the company almost died a couple years ago, and it's better than it's ever been. The book Reality Transurfing has been helpful. And I just talked about how the last 4 years have been crazy. And in America, we're more polarized than we've ever been as a nation. What's interesting to me is that a lot of people that used to hate, the new president-elect, they were lifelong Democrats and they flipped, right? And it's because people want to see change. And I shared a lot of stats over here, right? People are tired of inflation, highest inflation rate in 40 years, right? Tired of illegal immigration, 12 million people that have entered the US since 2020. Tired of media manipulation, right? 90% in favor of one person, 87% negative for the other person. Tired of corruption, right? And so my hope is that things are going to change. The next 4 years will go by quickly. And my hope, again, fingers crossed, things will change. And I just share some of my lessons at the end of this. So I just recommend sharing a conclusion and then talking about what you learned. And, a lot of these lessons I kind of gave as well, right? I think I'll just leave you with this. Doing the hard things gets you what you want. Doing the easy things gets you misery, right? That's what it is at the end of the day. So you do the hard things, everything you're going to get in your life And you do the hard things, but in a smart way. You continue to learn, you continue to get better. Don't just keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, right? You got to continue to get better. I hope you enjoyed this. We'll leave the template below. Let me know what you think about this, and let me know the best part of your year. We'll go from there. So yeah, that being said, we'll catch you later.